Mr. Squidward, welcome to the night shift.
And a pleasant good evening, everybody, and welcome into another live edition of the MI6 Sports Network's late night sports talk show. That, of course, folks, is the night shift. Coming away on another rare Wednesday night, again, due to some scheduling conflicts with me watching my USD Toreros men's basketball team play their first game of their season after a couple of weeks of COVID issues and then playing at UCLA, the game being on television. We chose to take away WST for the night as we're, of course, we're gearing up for our big episode on Thursday with Niners reporter from SI, the man himself, Grant Cohn, joining us at 5:30 in the evening on Thursday. We brought you folks instead the MI6 Sports Network's late night sports talk show, The Night Shift, for what is now officially our 30th episode of The Night Shift on this Wednesday, December 9th, 2020. Per usual, folks, joined by the fellow late night owl himself, Isaiah Leung from the home studios up there in Fremont, California. Yours truly, Callan McClurg from the home studios here in San Diego. Isaiah, as usual, man, good to see you, man, and happy Wednesday. How we doing tonight?
Happy hump day to you, Callan. Congratulations on the milestone, man. 30th episode. What an achievement for us. I mean, we started this show couple months ago, I believe. I think it was a couple of months ago, where we just did it because we wanted to fill time since we didn't have any programming from Tuesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So we were just like, hey, we have so much time on our hands. Let's just create a show called The Night Shift, and let's just do it. And, here we are 30 episodes later. It's been a fun ride. It's been awesome. I definitely hope that we continue this because I freaking love this show. But I'm excited. I'm excited for tomorrow's episode with Grant Cohn. In fact, this morning, actually, I thought that it was Thursday. I was panicking. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have my questions ready. I don't have I have a brain fart. I don't know, what should I ask Grant Cohn? I was having a panic attack, and then I just looked at my calendar. I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? All that panic just to see on my calendar that it's Wednesday. But yeah, that was a sneak peek into what was going on in the Leung household this morning. But yeah, I'm so excited for Grant Cohn. Can't wait to have him join the show tomorrow. Also, Callan, let's not forget the Secret Santa the Secret Santas have been sent out. We all know now who each and every one of us got on this network got for our Secret Santa. So I'm not going to reveal who I got. Callan won't reveal who he got, but I can't wait. We got Secret Santa. We got Grant Cohn coming on tomorrow. And for tonight's show, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. Plus, we're bringing back bloopers of the week. And I've already seen a sneak preview of some of the bloopers. It is magnificent. It is super funny. So make sure you guys stay tuned and watch from the start of the show until the very end.
Again, folks, as a reminder, Grant Cohn, the 49ers beat writer and reporter for Sports Illustrated, who, as you folks may know, we shared one of Grant's videos, his tribute video to right tackle Mike McGlinchey earlier in the bloopers of the week. But Grant will join us tomorrow on Thursday, 5:30 Pacific time, to talk all things Niners with Isaiah, myself, and John Mathis right here on the MI6 Sports Network. With that, folks, we now chug along into day number 10 of the network's ongoing 31 Days of Hot Takes Bracket Challenge. That poll, folks, is now live for you via the MI6 Facebook page over at facebook.com/MI6 Sports. Folks, tonight you are voting for either Furman Lee, who gave the Raiders the AFC West Division Championship about 3 or 4 weeks ago on the network on No BS, up against this video of me looking into the crystal ball into the future for some sports predictions. Give me Ryan Fitzpatrick, give me Ace Ventura, give me Snowflake, and give me the Dolphins, because I am very concerned about how, in fact, Garoppolo is. That's why I picked Miami fellas in our group pick'ems, even before Garoppolo was going to come back, because I just didn't know, for one, who was going to start, but also, now that he's back, though, how healthy is he actually going to be? I'm going to go with Miami in this game just for the reason of the question marks, again, being posed by the by the 49ers and their offense and also their quarterback situation. The thing that I think at this point in time is going to dictate how Game 6 goes is if the Lakers are playing from behind. I would think a lot of people would agree with me. If the Lakers find themselves losing the first quarter by any stretch of the imagination, that they would in fact lose this game. If the Lakers are off to a sloppy start with turnovers, unnecessary flashy play, and missing shots, they're not going to win this game. And I really think that the first quarter, the first 12 minutes maybe in my mind, dictate who wins this game. Whether it's the Lakers, if they come out firing on all cylinders, So with that in mind, folks, you're voting for either Furman picking the Raiders to win the AFC West Division or voting for the two Nostradamus picks of me saying the Dolphins over the Niners and the Lakers winning Game 6 of the NBA Finals for tonight's Day 10 of our ongoing 31 Days of Hot Takes Challenge. With that in mind, Isaiah, plenty of comments already rolling in. James saying hello to everybody and wishing us a happy 30th, our Dirty 30 episode here for the night shift. And also, Christy Wilson says, bloopers of the week. Should be fun. We have a couple of good ones, a couple of sports ones, and of course, a couple of ones away from sports coming up later in tonight's show. With that, Isaiah, let's get to the big story of the day. That, of course, Isaiah, is what I am coining. Forget the Montreal screw job in pro wrestling, my man. The Indiana screw job comes to fruition in college football as the Big Ten Conference, for some reason, Isaiah, breaks their own rules to allow The Ohio State University into the Big Ten title game, a unbeaten Ohio State team we should in fact mention, to face Pat Fitzgerald and the Northwestern Wildcats. Isaiah, I don't know, man, but there, I think, is a large number of controversy, and right now this dark cloud kind of hanging over the Big Ten Conference for this very ill-advised move that I think, Isaiah, could basically be compared to a game of pickup basketball, pickup football, where you add and change rules as the season goes on. For example, the Network Fantasy Football League, where you ask to change the rules to allow 6 teams into the playoffs, not 4, where I think, Isaiah, that's where I think the Big Ten can kind of be compared to as either a fantasy sports league or more so when you're just playing like baseball or playing a game of wiffle ball, football, roller hockey, or you're playing a game with your friends and you literally make and change rules as the game goes along. And I think, Isaiah, that if I'm a Indiana Hoosiers football fan, this is basically, a we got screwed ordeal where, again, Indiana, who, again, Isaiah, has been on a very great renaissance maybe with their football program. I know, of course, it's one loss, and they happen to lose to Ohio State, and that Ohio State is, in fact, unbeaten. But you literally put rules in place for a reason. You, I believe, from what I can remember, you are supposed to follow the rules of the law. And basically, the rules of the law for the Big Ten, you don't play 6 games, you don't qualify for a bowl game. And also, in this instance, if you don't play 6 games either, you don't qualify for the conference championship game. So I think, Isaiah, there was probably some pressure maybe from the Ohio State athletic department, maybe some other pressure perhaps. But more so, I really do feel bad, though, for the underdog story of Indiana, a school that I think, Isaiah, has been on a great, a great run. They've kind of in a way gotten themselves on the map in the Big Ten for football. We know them as a basketball school, but now football is kind of in a way turning a corner. And it's been that way where it's been probably not easy. They've been taking their licks for the past several years. And now, though, they are finally punching back, and they punched back very well against Ohio State. But Isaiah, this smells of controversy. This smells of it being more about the money and about who cares about Indiana. We need to get Ohio State into the playoff. I mean, and even if they get in, Isaiah, they're going to get walloped by Alabama in my mind. Isaiah, give us your thoughts and above all else, your reaction, though, more so about the Big Ten literally on the fly, changing rules that they put into place months ago, and yet they are breaking their own rules to let the Buckeyes into the conference championship game versus Pat Fitzgerald and the Northwestern Wildcats. What do you got?
Callan, first of all, before I get into that, about changing rules, hey, me and you can work out a deal off air where we could maybe change the fantasy football league rules once again, and we could get you into the playoffs, and let's have like 12 or yeah, 12
I'm ready
out of
for
the
fantasy
14
basketball
teams.
season. No, thank you.
You already canceled. You already waved the white flag on the fantasy football season. But anyways, about the this situation, this is, I think, completely BS by the Big Ten. The Big Ten bowed down to the pressure. That's what this is. The Big Ten was facing enormous pressure and enormous scrutiny from not only Ohio State athletic department, not only from the Ohio State fan base, but they were facing a lot of pressure and scrutiny from the various networks that cover college football, like ESPN, CBS, and Fox, that when Ohio State, makes the playoff, or when they show Ohio State games, they generate a lot of money compared to like teams like Indiana or Maryland or even Purdue. So this was all about the money. The Big Ten knew that they had to get Ohio State in because Ohio State would generate the most money for them. And if they didn't, then they would lose out on a lot of revenue. So this is what this is. I think it's completely BS. Like you said, Callan, you set the rules in the beginning. Even though the rules might be stupid and we might not agree with it, still, the rules are in place and you said it. You should follow your own rules instead of changing it in the middle of the season just to let a team like Ohio State, who, even though they're undefeated, they shouldn't be given special privilege. And unfortunately, that's what happened in this situation. I think Pete Thamel of Yahoo Sports had a very, very interesting tweet today, which he said, let's flip the script. What if Indiana was in this situation? What if Indiana was like Ohio State? They were number 4 in the country. They were 5-0. And they had their final 2 games canceled, and which would have made them ineligible for the college football playoff, not playoff, but the Big Ten Conference Championship. Do you think Indiana would have gotten the rule change? I don't believe so. And I honestly agree with him because Indiana is a very small school, no disrespect to them, but they're not comparable to Ohio State. The Big Ten, they just did this just to get Ohio State in the playoffs, just to get more money generated from Ohio State going to the playoffs, and I think that's utterly BS.
I think it is a utterly pathetic, and I think it rubs people the wrong way, but gives this conference a really bad look, Isaiah, as if this conference has not had a bad enough look already this season when they dragged their feet through the mud and watch the ACC play games in August and September, the SEC play games, the Big 12 play games, and they were so tardy to the party that, as I have said, Isaiah, I become a broken record, like I am basically on this program every single night I'm hosting, is that they did not think this season through. If they really thought, like I said on Tuesday, if they really thought they were going to go through an entire 6 to 8 week season and no one would come down with positive COVID-19 test, well, they put in, the loopholes of no built-in bye weeks and 3 weeks of mandatory quarantine. That basically took Wisconsin right out of the picture after week 1 in their victory over Illinois. So I think that more so that the gripes still in my mind that I've had for the past several years are only getting more and more expanded, and I'm losing every fiber in my body talking about this conference because it's been a absolutely humiliating. I think it's been a absolutely humiliating time if you are a Big Ten college football fan. I know, of course, that if you're an Ohio State fan, you're going crazy and you're enjoying it. But I think, though, Isaiah, that even if for the guys on the network like Shree and Steven and Trevor that are OSU fans, I would think, though, that, yeah, it's great that they're seeing it happen. But I do think, though, Isaiah, then you probably would agree, though, that Ryan, Trevor, Steve, and Shree would all agree, though, it probably doesn't feel like it's been earned. I know that they're still unbeaten, but he didn't get a chance to play Michigan to beat them again and just, further humiliate the Wolverines. But that it really doesn't feel like it was earned, if you kind of catch my drift. Yeah, they're 5-0, but it was more so like you were given this opportunity more so on a silver platter. So, Isaiah, we have Northwestern and Ohio State. Isaiah, do you think that perhaps that the Big Ten Conference will face, I don't think it'll be any kind of discipline, but more so that some of the schools, though, in the Big Ten might somewhat in a way, I don't know really how to phrase it, but more so would there kind of be like a bit of a mutiny maybe against the Big Ten from other programs in regards to this decision? I think more so the gripe, though, and I think rightfully so, Isaiah, is with Indiana because they're looking at probably their first meaningful football game in probably most recent school history, and they literally have it taken away from them because the conference chooses to break their own rules and put Ohio State in over Indiana. So do you think that the gripe is more so with Indiana, the rest of the conference, or is it a combination of many other gripes that have been shared, I think, by all of us on this network over the past several months during the course of his football season?
I think I don't think the gripe would be on Ohio State because, like you said, Callan, I think that Ohio State, honestly, for me, I think Ohio State earned like not they might have not have beaten like every team, but they were the best team in the conference, and it was by a long shot. There was nobody more than a couple of miles more than a couple of miles behind Ohio State in this conference. I mean, Michigan has looked really bad. Penn State started 0-5. Wisconsin, they might have been that team that could have caught Ohio State, but they would have needed a couple of lucky breaks to even have a competitive matchup against Ohio State. So I think Ohio State, they were they were the runaway favorites to win this conference before the season started, and their play on the field just reaffirmed my belief that they were the best team in this conference. But when you're looking at Indiana, if they are going to hold any gripes, I think it's got to be with the Big Ten, because the Big Ten set all these pathetic rules before the season started, like no bye week, 3-week quarantine. Also, that pathetic, stupid 6-game eligibility rule for the Big Ten championship game. And then the other rule that they set, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever, is no non-conference games. That's one of the biggest gripes that I have with the Big Ten. It's like a team is ready to play, but they get their game canceled because another team is having an outbreak. Why not let them go play another team in their state? Or why not let them play like either a team that is close to the region? I just think that it's unfair to the players that they don't have a COVID outbreak, but they have to wait 2 or 3 weeks to play another game because the other team canceled their game, and because the Big Ten don't let them schedule any non-conference opponents, just like unlike the SEC and the Pac-12 and all these other conferences that do in fact let their teams schedule non-conference games.
Sorry about that, folks. I had to go off camera due to a sneezing attack. The allergies just not hanging with me, and we've had some very weird weather patterns here. But Isaiah, I do agree, though, that more so, I feel bad for Indiana more than anything else because, literally this program has been, like I said, though, they've been building towards something great recently. And to kind of have this taken away from you like the way that you had it done today, just not the best. Some thoughts, Isaiah, trickling in. First, Christy Wilson, Isaiah, she says, let's just call it the Big Ten screw job, basically. And James says, I hope Ohio State loses their next game, whenever it is. That'd be against Northwestern for the Big Ten Conference Championship, I believe, is their next game, because, as mentioned, that game with Michigan is now off the schedule due to, again, the outbreak among both programs, by the way, reporting COVID cases, not just Michigan at this rate. Isaiah, back over to you. What do you got for us?
By the way, I know a lot of people saw me celebrating on screen when Callan was talking about that Ohio State-Michigan game being canceled. Listen, I'm not celebrating that Michigan had COVID and like that's why they got their game canceled. I'm celebrating the fact that Ohio or Michigan doesn't have to get their butts kicked by Ohio State, and I don't have to go on the show and have to face the music when Ohio State wins by 80 points. So that's why I'm celebrating. I'm not celebrating that the kids got COVID. I'm just celebrating that I don't have to go on any programs and show my face after Ohio State would have dismantled Michigan.
Yeah, we'll see how things go, Isaiah. One more comment from James. He says, once again, college sports being unfair. I think, Isaiah, like I've said, though, and, I've said a lot of my piece about the Big Ten Conference because more so that them and the Pac-12 both, I think, just really dragged their feet throughout the course of the off season, into the pandemic, into the back end of them considering playing the season. And basically at this rate, that this more so for me is just like sheer pettiness, that you're going to, oh, we don't, oh my gosh, we don't have Ohio State. We don't have Wisconsin. We don't have anyone, any big name schools playing for the conference championship. I'm going to change the rules real quick. Oh, put it out, press release. So rules have been changed. Ohio State is now in. That more so, Isaiah, is where the gripe for me still is, but more so, it's the gripe about the rule being changed. At the last part of the season, the rule gets changed. But again, the incompetence, the schedule format, no built-in off days, and 3 weeks of mandatory quarantine. It's just one thing after another, Isaiah, for me, piling on the Big Ten. But Isaiah, your thoughts on James's thoughts at college sports still being unfair towards certain programs in your mind?
Unfortunately, James, it's always been like that. It's always about the top programs in college football. That's why you have teams like Ohio State, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, LSU, Oklahoma getting these special treatments. I mean, just look at the scandal in college basketball. I know we're not talking about college basketball, but talk about the scandal that is going on when Arizona, Duke, and Kansas are reportedly indicted in this scandal about paying their players. And what has gone on so far? Bill Self is still the head coach at Kansas. Coach K is still the head coach at Duke. And Sean Miller, the guy who was deeply involved in that college basketball scandal, has not been fired. And it's been already 2 years since all of this stuff came out. And, the NCAA, they haven't punished any of these programs, while programs like Louisville and all the other small programs, Louisville's not small, but compared to Arizona, compared to Duke, compared to Kansas in college basketball, they aren't at their level. Those programs get punished, while these top-notch programs, their bad deeds get swept under the rug. And I just think that's utterly BS. But Callan, about those rules that you were talking about being changed at mid-season or midpoint, how about let's enact a new policy on the network, since we're midway through the year of the network. Why don't we have a new policy where me or you or anybody else, when our teams lose, we don't have to come on this show?
No, not happening anytime soon. One more thought, Isaiah. James agrees that he forgot about the basketball scandal. I think we had 9 programs at the start of the basketball season be given notices about allegations, perhaps, in regards to payments, in regards to boosters, you name it, pretty much across college basketball. But as a reminder, folks, we're currently on day 10 of the network's 31 days of hot takes the Hot Takes Challenge. Again, you're voting for either Furman Lee, saying that the Raiders win the AFC West, or me accurately predicting 2 wins on October 10th between the Dolphins being the Niners and the Lakers winning Game 6 of the NBA Finals. Cast those votes over on Facebook.com/MI6 Sports. With that, Isaiah, some more college football news. Up in Boise, Idaho, Isaiah, some reports gaining traction here up in Boise of the Boise State head coach. Name eludes me, sadly. But apparently, Boise State's head coach caught, Isaiah, sending emails to the Boise State University admin, begging them to leave the Mountain West Conference and go somewhere else. Now, Isaiah, of course, this more so is on the heels of a very long stretch of the imagination a couple years ago of when Boise, along with Nevada, Reno, and I believe Hawaii and also San Jose State, they all left the Western Athletic Conference to go and head to the Mountain West Conference. A part of that whole entire conference alignment. By the way, folks, that was Brian Harsin, the head coach of the Broncos, who, again, per reports gathered from Boise media, was apparently caught sending emails to the Boise State admin, begging the school to leave the Mountain West Conference. And again, UNR, Boise State, San Jose State, notably the 3 schools that came over from the WAC to the Mountain West about, I'd say, 7 to 9, maybe 10 years ago, roughly. But Isaiah, more so, I know that conference realignment has kind of been talked about a little bit on this program between Casey and Angel. They were talking a lot about maybe San Diego State or Fresno State leaving the Mountain West for the Pac-12, because I remember bringing up the story that the Aztec football program nearly left back in 2013, I think, for the Big East Conference to try to get a better shot at a bowl game. They end up coming back to the Mountain West, though. But Isaiah, we do see this, though, sometimes. Mainly, your beloved Rainbow Warriors play their football games in the Mountain West, but everything else that's non-football related is in the Big West Conference. San Diego State is the same exact way. Their men's soccer program is already in the Pac-12 due to the Mountain West not having a men's soccer program or men's soccer as a conference-sponsored sport. And also as well, that SDSU is in everything else for the Mountain West. So Isaiah, Boise State, I will say though, has kind of maybe given this conference a bit of respect. I compare Boise State a lot to Gonzaga with how Gonzaga has put the West Coast Conference, the USD Conference for basketball, on the map. They're ranked number 1 right now in men's college basketball. And Boise State, in my mind, has kind of been that school that when they joined the Mountain West from the WAC with UNR and U of H and San Jose State, they kind of helped put the Mountain West on the map for college football, in my mind, at least on the West Coast. But Isaiah, now though, man, we have a very interesting story. I wouldn't really say it's controversial because I think that probably Boise has probably wondered, though, is it time for us to move to a different conference or go somewhere else to get a better shot at the bowl, at a bigger, better bowl game or the college football playoff? Of course, Isaiah, as I also said though a while back, though, that Gonzaga and BYU were actually approached by the Mountain West to join the Mountain West and leave the West Coast Conference for basketball only, because in a way, Gonzaga and BYU have been the two most dominant programs over the past several years in the WCC. I'd throw St. Mary's in there as well. So Isaiah, your thoughts about Brian Harsin with his emails being sent to the school, but also, could you realistically see Boise State leaving the Mountain West to go to a different conference? Yes or no, and where do you stand on it and why?
Well, first of all, let's get something straight. I despise Boise because I'm a Hawaii fan, and Boise keeps kicking Hawaii's butt each and every year, and really ruining Hawaii's dream of winning the Mountain West or even winning the WAC back when they were at the WAC. So I really hate Boise. But about this situation, I'm not surprised, Callan, because Boise State has always had 1 foot out the door in the Mountain West. I mean, when they left the WAC for the Mountain West, I think 2 years in the Mountain West, Boise State, there were already rumblings that Boise State, like you said, they wanted to go to the Big East, they wanted to go to the Big 12. There was even one really out of the blue report that they wanted to go to the SEC. Can you believe that, Callan? Boise State wanted to go to the SEC. But so I'm not surprised because Boise's always had 1 foot out of the door. That's why the Mountain West gave them special treatment. Like they gave them a special TV deal where they would show, or they would have first priority when it comes to their games being shown on national TV. They would also have first priority when it comes to bowl games and stuff like that. The Mountain West gave them special treatment to keep Boise from going to the other conferences. So I just think that Boise will eventually go to a different conference because they've always wanted to go to a different conference. The Mountain, they've always just seemed like the Mountain West is not the right fit, but they want better things than the Mountain West. So I definitely see Boise leaving the Mountain West in the nearby future. And some of the conferences that I think that Boise could end up with, obviously, I don't think Boise would end up with the SEC because that would logistically, that would be a big problem because imagine Boise having to travel from the West Coast
There's only one conference, Isaiah, in my mind that makes the most sense. It's got to be the Pac-12 to alleviate some of that travel for Utah and Colorado.
I agree. I think the Pac-12 is the one that makes the most sense because most of the teams in the Pac-12 are in the West Coast. Boise's not going to the Big 12 because there's going to be too much travel involved. The SEC, that's out of the picture. There's no way Boise joins the SEC because the travel and the logistics between Boise going to the South and the teams in the South going to Boise, that's going to be too far. And you're going to have teams like Alabama, Georgia, all grumbling about having to play games at 7 p.m. Pacific time. So like I agree with you, Callan. Boise State's best hope is joining the Pac-12, and right now I don't see it because I don't see conferences expanding. But maybe like in 3-4 years, when after the pandemic is over, when conferences can get the money that they lost from this year and probably next year back, then I think you will see a lot of conference realignment. And I think that's when you will see Boise join the Pac-12 and get themselves a better shot at potentially the college football playoff.
I agree, Isaiah, because it seems to me over the past several years that there's been more conference reshuffling, rekindling over the past several years. And mainly because it's probably because I work at USD and I've been used to the West Coast Conference for basically my entire time before I even worked at the school, but even being as a fan of the Toreros, is you're going to get Pepperdine, you're going to get, La Loyola Marymount, you're going to get St. Mary's, you're going to get Gonzaga, obviously. And then now, of course, you add back in Pacific and you also add BYU into the equation. It's like, okay, BYU's in. Now it's going to be them, Gonzaga, and St. Mary's versus the rest of the field, as it usually, sadly, is in basketball, at least. Other sports, though, everyone else kind of holds their own in different sports. But I think, though, for Boise State, Isaiah, for a school that, of course, we know very well beats Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl with the hook and ladder touchdown and a Statue of Liberty play to win the ball game, that they've always, I think, ever since then have kind of, in a way, tried their best to kind of get onto a better platform. And, of course, the Mountain West probably is not the best in people's minds because, of course, you're talking about a conference that includes Hawaii. You have 8 o'clock game times when they play over on the islands. And when they play, you're talking about a conference with huge, with schools in 2 different time zones. And you're also, though, talking about the elevation and the weather, and more so the schools being at such a, absurd height in regards to, it being called the Mountain West for a reason, because you have schools above that threshold or above that, above sea level. And they always ask, I think at one point the slogan was Mountain West Conference, above the rest. I think now the slogan for the Mountain West is at the peak, I think, because of the elevation amongst all the programs, basically in some capacity. But I do think, though, Isaiah, that you're right, though, that Boise, to me, more so since that Fiesta Bowl victory over Oklahoma, they, I think, have probably been the biggest school that has always had a foot somewhat out the door in the WAC and now in the Mountain West. I don't see the SEC calling them regardless, not because of location, but it's like, really, boy, you want to come and play us and get killed every single game because of the money? Sure. No, we're not going to do that. Pac-12 for me seems to be the Pac-12 to me seems to be more logical because of the location of this conference. And you already have 2 schools, Utah and Colorado, who probably could use another close counterpart somewhere up north, because you already, Wyoming's close, but they're playing in the Mountain West, as is Boise right now. I think that more so for me, the Pac-12 would be the easier landing spot in my mind for Boise State. But Isaiah, back over to you. What do you got?
So, Callan, I just want to say, the only team in the SEC that would potentially be clamoring for Boise State to be added to the SEC is Vanderbilt and also Missouri, because right now they're at the bottom of the SEC. They're always at the bottom of the SEC, and if you bring Boise to the SEC, Boise would get killed, and they would replace Vanderbilt and Missouri at the bottom of the SEC. So those are the only 2 teams that quite possibly will clamor for Boise State to join the SEC. But in terms of Boise joining the Pac-12, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. The location makes sense. Utah, Colorado, they're already in the Pac-12. You have USC there. But the only problem, Callan, I have with Boise potentially joining the Pac-12 is how would a 13-team Pac-12 conference, or it'll be Pac-13, how would that even work? That wouldn't be an even number of teams. So you would have to add in one more team to make it 14 and have the divisions be even, so you can have that conference championship game. So I wonder if they do end up adding Boise, who would be the team that they would add as well with Boise coming in?
Simple answer would be San Diego State, because you're looking at maybe by 2022 a brand new football stadium opening up. Now, it would be a matter, though, for me, though, is this going to be a football-only move by San Diego State, much like Hawaii, where they moved the footballs in the Mountain West, but everything else is in a different conference. As I already alluded to, Isaiah, Hawaii, San Diego State, they have one program in one conference, football or men's soccer, for example, with SDSU and their men's soccer program playing in the Pac-12, already in the Pac-12 with men's soccer. Then, of course, you have to factor in Hawaii with them playing in the Big West Conference, separate from the Mountain West, obviously, and from the WCC. But more so, would it be a football-only move for SDSU to the Pac-12, or would it be every sport joining for the Pac-12 in my mind? I don't know where they would stand, though, Isaiah, but it would probably, in my mind, for a South Division, it would have to be San Diego State, though I've been very skeptical about that move because of there already being two very, well-known programs in the Southern California region for the Pac-12 in both USC and UCLA. But I also think, though, if we're talking about travel between for the Utes and the Buffs, well, hey, you've got USC, UCLA, two schools in Arizona who could come to San Diego and play their games. And I do believe September 3rd, 2022, the first day of the new Aztec Stadium being open for football, their first game is against the Arizona Wildcats at the new stadium. So this may, in fact, be laying the groundwork for maybe SDSU jumping to the Pac-12. But again, Isaiah, is this going to be a move like Hawaii, where it's one sport only that goes to a conference, but they keep everything else currently in tow in the Mountain West? Where do you stand on that issue, though, more so in regards to schools? Now, again, to kind of clarify here real quick, is with this in mind, the Pac-12 conference for men's soccer, where SDSU does play, is only because, Isaiah, the Mountain West does not sponsor men's soccer as a actual sport. They don't have a men's team, but the men's team does play, but they're in a separate conference where everything else is in the Mountain West. Again, again, the Bows play football in the Mountain West, but everything else is in the Big West Conference. Again, there was some rumors about maybe Zaga and BYU basketball only going from the WCC to the Mountain West, perhaps. That, of course, fell through. But Isaiah, where do you stand, though, more so on maybe an issue like that, though, of a school putting only one team into this conference, but keeping everything else in a different conference? Where do you stand on that issue and why?
I don't like it because it ruins the rivalries. When Hawaii first announced that they were leaving the WAC and heading to the Mountain West Conference just for football, and then the other sports were going to go to the Big West, I opposed the move because when Hawaii was in the WAC, right, for all sports, you had those rivalries with Boise. You had those rivalries with Fresno State. You had those rivalries with San Jose State and Nevada. And those were like really, really good rivalries. They were heated rivalries. They were very historic rivalries. And, like Hawaii then going just to Mountain West for football and all the other sports going to the Big West, those ruined those historic rivalries when it came to those other sports. Hawaii was big rivals with Boise. They were big rivals with Fresno. They were big rivals with San Jose State, not just in football, but in basketball, baseball, softball, and etc. I mean, Hawaii and Fresno State, they were like the Cavs and the Warriors in the WAC when it came to battling it out in baseball, because those two teams, they had very, very good baseball teams. Like every 1 year you would have Hawaii representing the WAC in the NCAA tournament for baseball. The next year you would have Fresno State, then you would have Hawaii, then you would have Fresno. It seemed like they would rotate year in and year out. And then all of that just got ruined because of Hawaii's move to the Big West. So that's like the only thing that I dislike of it. But other than that, I'm fine of it, of teams moving, or one sport going to a different conference and the other sports going to another conference.
I agree, but I more so side with it, Isaiah. And now, again, I get the whole thing about Hawaii, though, because the Big West does not sponsor football, much like the West Coast Conference. They don't sponsor football. Some of the teams do play football in the Big West, but they're with different conferences or different leagues. For example, USD playing in the Pioneer Football League, which is a conference basically with San Diego. Then you have your closest opponent in Des Moines, Iowa. That's how far USD football travels to play their the PFL games for the FCS level or FBS level. I get those two very often mixed up. But the level below, the main one that we, of course, watch on Saturdays. But more than anything else, though, Isaiah, is I get that move more so only if a conference does not have that sport. For example, SDSU men's soccer, they can't play in the Mountain West because the Mountain West does not sponsor or have men's soccer. Hence why they play in the Pac-12 conference for men's soccer, basically. I have to say, plenty of thoughts, Isaiah, though, about this. about the move here. First, Christy says, I agree with her. I can't keep up with these college sports conferences. More so, Isaiah, for me, another one that I did not get a hold of or did not like, UConn leaving the Big East for the American Athletic Conference, where the women's basketball team played Houston, Tulane, East Carolina, and these games were, over at halftime. And this was like at the very height of their last big dynasty, man. And that was, I think, probably one of the worst moves that UConn could have made, I think, more so with, again, or not all of them, but again, seeing the utter domination like Boise State football in the Mountain West, but UConn women's hoops not playing in the Big East, like, yikes.
Yeah, that I completely agree with you on that, Cal. That ruined, or that was a really bad decision by UConn because they went to a conference, especially for women's basketball. They went to a conference that just gave them no competition. I mean, really, East Carolina, Houston. I'm trying to think off the top of my head the other teams. I think
Tulane, Cincinnati.
Yep, those teams. Like, they're not giving UConn a run for their money. So I really thought that UConn, especially for women's basketball, they should have just stayed in the Big East. Even men's basketball, they should have stayed in the Big East as well. It's sad that now the Big East is, or they're still there, but they're no longer there for football. But yeah, I agree with you. That was one of the worst decisions by UConn.
The only good thing, Isaiah, UConn is back now in the Big East Conference, mercifully. So bravo to UConn for going back home. Also, James says, Boise State football program deserves to leave for somewhere bigger. San Diego State does too, but not before Boise State leaves. I agree. And again, that I think more so, Isaiah, the Pac-12 I think would be calling because that's the next closest one that you could probably play in because you're on the West Coast.
Yeah, the Pac-12 makes a lot of sense for both Boise and San Diego State because of the travel. They don't have to travel like across country. Also, the competition, I feel like, in the Pac-12 and the Mountain West is kind of similar. Like, if you put that's why I don't think Boise joining the SEC would make sense because you agree with me, Callan. They would get killed. There's no way Boise's beating Alabama. There's no way Boise's beating Georgia. There's no way they're even beating Florida. Heck, I don't even think they can compete with Vanderbilt.
Okay, this one just popped into my head. If not San Diego State, Isaiah, how about BYU to the Pac-12?
I like the idea, Callan, but I don't think it would come to fruition simply because I think that BYU, for football, they're too comfortable being in the independent. I think their president has already come out and said that they're not going to join any conferences for the foreseeable future simply because they love picking and choosing whatever teams that they play.
Fair. I mean, very fair observation. I think, though, that it kind of just came to my head at the same time, though. BYU, Utah's a pretty good rivalry. Could have perhaps gone that route, maybe, but we'll see what does come out of it.
How about the Rainbow Warriors to the Pac-12, Callan?
I don't know, honestly. I mean, it sounds intriguing, but would the conference want to, I mean, of course, we know about TV revenue and the start times, but I don't know. I mean, probably not. I think the Mountain West is still probably their best spot right now because with how the program is right now, that's a pretty big leap going from the Mountain West to the Pac-12. So I'd say no for right now.
Yeah, and I gotta agree with you, even though I hate I don't like it because Hawaii's football program just hasn't been that good in recent years. I mean, I think last year they had, I believe, a 10-win season. But before that, they were winning just 4 games, 3 games, even 2 games at one point. And if you're going to be a program like that and go to the Pac-12, you're going to get killed. You're going to get absolutely killed in the Pac-12, and you will be stuck in the cellar in the Pac-12 for years to come. So I think it's a good thing that they're sticking in the Mountain West because you can't beat Mountain West teams. How are you beating Pac-12 teams?
Exactly. I mean, I don't know how that would work, but I mean, it probably, if it comes to like a very worst case scenario and you ask them, maybe we'll see what happens out of it. Also, some more thoughts. Isaiah Christy Wilson says, I only like Boise State because a couple of players from there play for the Cowboys. Other than that, not a fan of Boise State. James also says, put Boise State in the Big 12 and let them get beat so badly that they're going to go back or going to be begging to go back to the Mountain West Conference. Yeah, I would agree. James also says, I wouldn't mind seeing Boise and SDSU join the Pac-12. The Mountain West Conference would hate losing SDSU's basketball program, though. That I think, though, Isaiah, goes back to my point, though, of would this be a football-only move if SDSU was to move to the Pac-12 conference? I think, and I think this comment further, I think, explains that it would be probably football-only for SDSU to leave the Mountain West Conference.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with you as well. I think that it would make sense for San Diego State's move just to be football only, because I think that if you put, it doesn't make sense for their basketball team. I think their basketball team and all the other sports right now are perfect in the Mountain West Conference. I think football, yeah, you can put them in the Pac-12, but basketball and all the others, they just don't make sense. But Callan, I want Boise to go to the SEC because I want Boise to take down Nick Saban. Imagine Saban having his national championship. Imagine the controversy that would follow if Nick Saban and Alabama got their national championship hopes dashed on the blue turf, and then post-game, you have Nick Saban saying, oh, yeah, we lost the game because we couldn't see, because they're wearing blue jerseys and blue pants, and they were camouflaged, and we couldn't see anything.
Sure, that's really going to happen. Some more thoughts. James also writes in, I hated when the Big East changed. Men's basketball was great there, but not anymore. And again, more so with me, it's the UConn women the gripe was with, because really, Houston, Tulane, I think Navy is in the AAC. Good grief. No thanks. Christy also says, Isaiah, Boise State would get slaughtered by Alabama, and they would, sadly. I mean, maybe not sadly, but they would be. But again, folks, some news, though, again, of the Boise State head coach. Once again, Brian Harsin, again, apparently caught emailing a school admin begging for Boise State to leave the Mountain West Conference and move on to a different conference affiliation. With that, Isaiah, some interesting news as well from Vanderbilt due to, again, the firing of Derek Mason as their head coach. Two former NFL head coaches are now in line perhaps for the head coaching position. That includes former Rams head coach Jeff Fisher and former Texans GM and head coach Bill O'Brien. Isaiah, it is Vanderbilt, and honestly, man, it can't get much worse than that for a very, sadly, woefully horrible SEC college football program. Isaiah, your thoughts on this news? As at this rate, what do they have to lose, right?
Well, exactly, Callan. What do they have to lose? And honestly, I am rooting for Jeff Fisher to get the job at Vanderbilt because I want to see the Jeff Fisher versus Nick Saban coaching battles when Vanderbilt plays Alabama. But in all seriousness, though, I think that if they hire either Jeff Fisher or Bill O'Brien, I think that this isn't really them saying that they are a good or great coach. This is just an attempt by the Vanderbilt administration to try to bring their football program back to relevance. Vanderbilt hasn't been relevant in 10 years, 10, 12 years. I think they've only been to one or two bowl games in the last decade or two. So it's been a long time since Vanderbilt has been relevant. This move would signal to me that they're just trying to bring fans back to the stands because when you look at Jeff Fisher, right? Jeff Fisher is a big name. Bill O'Brien, big name. You saw what he did with the Houston Texans. So I kind of liken this to Charlie Wise going to Kansas, where it was really, Kansas, you're hiring Charlie Wise? But when you thought about it even more, it was oh, okay, yeah, they're not, I don't know if they're trying to win, but they're just trying to they're trying to sell tickets, and they're trying to hopefully get the program back to some type of relevancy. So that's why Kansas hired Charlie Wise, even though it turned out to be a disaster, which I think that if they do hire Jeff Fisher or if they hire, I don't know, I think Bill O'Brien would do better because Bill O'Brien has had success in college football. He's had success recruiting. He did a great job recruiting at Penn State. Penn State, they were down in the dumps after what happened with Paterno, and he brought them back in just 2 seasons. So I think he would be a great fit for Vanderbilt. I think he would do a great job. But Jeff Fisher, I think, would be like Charlie Wise. I think, it would just be to sell tickets, but probably after 3-4 years, he would be fired because I just don't think that Jeff Fisher at the age of 62, first of all, I don't think he has the energy to recruit. I don't know if players want to play for Jeff Fisher given what they've been hearing in the media the last few years. Like Jeff Fisher's reputation has completely gone down the drain. If you look at or if you bring up Jeff Fisher now, people think of him as a laughingstock. People think of him as they act like he's the worst coach in the NFL. Like I talked to a couple of guys about Jeff Fisher going to Vanderbilt, and they just laughed at me. They were like, "Yeah, Jeff Fisher, haha, good luck, man. He's gonna find a way to somehow, some way go 8-8 at Vanderbilt." I think I like the move, and I'm hoping that Jeff Fisher or Bill O'Brien goes there because I want to see the coaching battles between them and Nick Saban. But I just think that this move or these moves are potentially just attempts at bringing fans into the stands and not really helping the football program become good.
I agree, Isaiah. It's more of a thing, I think, like you said, though, as a attention grabber. Like, hey, come check out Vanderbilt Commodores football. We just got, new head coach Jeff Fisher, new head coach in Bill O'Brien. More of like that name that jumps out at you to get people to come back to football games when, in fact, we're allowed to get back to sporting events as fans very shortly, hopefully sooner than later. But I do agree, Isaiah. At this rate, it's more so of a thing of, if you're Vanderbilt, like, what do we really have to lose? We're not going anywhere this year. We have a bad record. We already fired the head coach. And really, what do we really have to lose at this rate with this hire more than anything else in my mind, with the Commodores looking at either getting Jeff Fisher or Bill O'Brien? Some thoughts, Isaiah, real quick, chiming in or coming in at this rate. First and foremost, from James Gonzalez. He says, well, Jeff Fisher can't go 7-9 at Vandy. Ha, ha, ha. That is true. He can't go 7-9. He might as well, I think, James, I think we all would agree, though, needs to have his name changed to Jeff, quote, 7-9, end quote, Fisher. That's all we know him for. Christy says, if I'm the AD of Vandy, I would hire Fisher, would not touch O'Brien with a 10-foot pole. What do you think, Isaiah?
I would disagree, and I would flip them. I would hire Bill O'Brien. I wouldn't touch Jeff Fisher with a 10-foot pole because I know Bill O'Brien, his tenure in Houston ended really ugly. But when you look at what he's done in college football, he took that Penn State team that was at the bottom in college football after the whole Paterno Sandusky scandal, where they were levied with like the NCAA took away a lot of scholarships. They were levied with a lot of bowl bans, and he somehow, some way kept that program together. He kept that program afloat, and he brought them back to 8-5. I mean, that's how remarkable he did at Penn State. People don't realize that how bad of a program Joe Paterno and Jerry Sandusky left Penn State in. That guy cleaned up the mess and brought them back to 500. I think it was very, very impressive. Jeff Fisher, when you look at him, right, the problem with Vanderbilt is their offense sucks. They don't have a quarterback. They're the same thing as Tennessee, where like this year they were rotating quarterbacks in and out of the lineup. They were also rotating in running backs in and out of the lineup depending on their effectiveness per game. Jeff Fisher is not a guy that can develop quarterbacks. He's not a guy that can develop an offense. You saw what he did with Jared Goff. Jared Goff looks super bad under Jeff Fisher. Sean McVay takes over, and voila, Jared Goff looks like a brand new human being. So I would not touch Jeff Fisher with a 10-foot pole simply because this is college football. And what you have to do as a coach in college football is to develop these players and get them ready for the pro level. And Jeff Fisher is not the guy that is good at developing young talent. I think he's more of a fit with a veteran team than having to recruit and develop young talent.
Yeah, I mean, both these guys have their flaws, but more so Fisher's age, I think, is a little bit more concerning for a lot of people. Like, does he have the energy to recruit, travel, the long grind of practices, games, traveling? But I think, though, it's a very good observation, Christy, regardless, though, she'd hire Fisher and not touch Bill O'Brien with a 10-foot pole. James agrees with Isaiah, but more so he says, I think O'Brien would try to get a better head coaching job somewhere else, pros or college level. Again, Vanderbilt, more so. Not a name that really jumps out at you, sadly. And also, James says, seems like nothing and no one can revive Vandy football. And hopefully, though, that for their sake, it's not Isaiah Leung that will do that, but hopefully it's someone that can, in fact, do that, hopefully sooner than later. With that, Isaiah, one big story in the NBA that has been some rumors swirling around of NBA great Pau Gasol, perhaps considering a return to the NBA after, of course, he had some time with the Bulls and the Spurs after his time, of course, with the Lakers. But now it seems, though, Isaiah, that Pau is intrigued by the prospect of once again playing with his brother Mark in Los Angeles and, of course, playing for the beloved LA Lakers. And I think, Isaiah, I've been thinking about this very heavily over the past, throughout the course of a day, because when I think about obviously what's transpired this year, again, the very, still shell-shocking loss of Kobe Bryant, and thinking to myself, though, Pau was really like the only, what I can recall, at least in my time watching the Lakers and Kobe play, that Pau was probably the closest friend that Kobe had in his time playing for the Lakers. You know about him and Shaq and their maybe off and on feud and their friendship and their rivalry and stuff like that. But Pau Gasol, to me, when he first got dealt from Memphis to the Lakers, and right away you saw the fit, that him and Kobe were just that they were more than teammates, and they obviously became very close. And that, to me, Pau Gasol seemed to be that one brother that Kobe never had, obviously, but also, to me, it seemed like that was Bean's most cherished friendship on the court in his 20-year NBA career. And now, Isaiah, we're hearing some rumors here, maybe Pau coming out of retirement. Again, he's been with Chicago, the Spurs, and really maybe has lost maybe a bit of a step post his time in LA. But Isaiah, the prospect, though, I think for Pau here is, for one, playing with Mark, for one thing, but also I think he wants one more shot to go out there and play for the Lakers and kind of, in a way, I think, do it, in my mind, as a nod and tribute to Kobe for his passing. So, Isaiah, your thoughts on this, but also where do you stand, though, about Pau perhaps returning to the NBA and giving it one more shot with his brother in LA with the Lakers?
I really hope that it happens. I've been saying this ever since Marc Gasol signed with the Los Angeles Lakers and the rumors started surfacing that Pau Gasol was interested in returning to play for the Lakers and play with Mark one last time. Pau Gasol, he will forever be in Lakers lore because of what he did with Kobe Bryant and winning those championships back in 2009 and 2010. He was a tremendous contributor in those title runs, so he will be a part of Lakers lore forever. I would not be surprised one bit if Pau Gasol got a statue outside of Staples Center. That's just how special Pau Gasol.
How about a retired number?
Yeah, or they're going to retire, or they'll definitely retire his number for sure. But Callan, I hope Gasol returns. But the only problem with this, though, is how much does Gasol really have left in the tank? Because when you look at Pau Gasol, right, he hasn't played in the last 1.5 years. He suffered I believe, a torn fascia or whatever. Yeah, a foot.
Plantar fasciitis, yeah.
Yes, a really bad foot injury. That takes a really long time to heal, and you never know how a player can come back from that injury. So, if that injury is fully healed, if he has some left in the tank, because remember, Pau Gasol on this Lakers squad, he wouldn't have to be the Pau Gasol back in 2008 or 2009. He just has to come in here. He'll probably be either the backup center or the third string center. It depends, because AD could play some 5. Montrezl Harrell can play some 5. Gasol would probably only play very limited minutes. He will just be there to mentor the guys, and I think he would be a perfect mentor given the fact that he's won a couple of championships and he's been to 3 NBA finals, and he knows, to some of the guys that haven't been to the NBA finals, his brother Mark, Montrez, Dennis Schroeder, Wesley Matthews, and even some of the young guys that the Lakers have on this squad. I think he would be very beneficial in helping the Lakers. And also, Pau Gasol, before when he did suffer that injury, he retired for a little bit to go into coaching and coach big man. So I think he would really help. He would be able to really help develop Montrezl Harrell's game. He might take AD's game up to another level. I mean, AD's already great. Imagine what Pau Gasol can do with him, and he can take the young centers that the Lakers have had. Yeah, either like right now on the in the roster or in the G League. He can help develop them as well. So I really hope that Pau Gasol ends up coming back to the purple and gold.
I think, Isaiah, this becomes one where if I was in charge of offering contracts, this becomes one where it's a 1-year veterans minimum in my mind for a guy like Pau Gasol. And he doesn't have to really, I think, be the Pau Gasol you said of the 09, 2010 finals runs, but more so in a way like what Bill Russell did with the Celtics towards the end of his time, winning those 11 titles over the Lakers. It felt like back in the 60s, though. But Bill Russell, Isaiah, became a player/coach when he was with the Celtics towards the end, I'd say, of that Celtic dynasty back in the 60s, early 70s, and stuff like that. But more so to be that mentor and kind of be there. I think, though, Isaiah, that there's something, though, minus playing with Mark, though, something I think to kind of get back out there one more time and play for Kobe. Because I think, like I said, though, Isaiah, that Pau to me just seemed to be like the one very good close friend that Kobe actually had on the floor. Because you know what? 9 times out of 10, it was Kobe versus the other team. We saw that firsthand when Kobe lit up the Mavericks and he scored more points than they did through 3 quarters of a ball game. I think 2001 or 2002 when he had 62 points and Dallas had 61 after 3 quarters. But that Kobe, of course, really didn't have a lot of friends on the court, more so other than his teammates. But that Gasol, to me, Pau at least, seemed to be that one guy that stuck like glue to Kobe. And that more so since Kobe's, again, untimely passing, that Pau has become more of a father figure for the kids and trying to help Vanessa and the family out as often as he can. And I've loved what he's done, though, in his, kind of being that person to lean on in these very, trying times for the Bryant family. But more so, I would think, though, as well, Isaiah, that even if Pau does, in fact, get on this roster, it could be like what I think James has here. He's a very valid point, Isaiah. James says that Pau would not have to do much. It would be like Tyson Chandler playing for the Rockets a couple of seasons ago and never checking into games. That would probably be the best case scenario. Christy Wilson also says, I think it would be great to see Pau play with his brother on the Lakers. And if he does retire as a Laker, I hope he gets a statue next to Kobe whenever they, in fact, do, in fact, show that one off or unveil the Kobe statue. My buddy Scott Silvis writes in, Pau is a flopper. I would love, about that, Isaiah, I'd love, though, to see the NBA go the route of what college has done, though, man, about Scott's point, though. They have established a flop warning rule in college where if a team or player flops twice, I believe it becomes a technical foul against that team. And it becomes technical fouls, I think, after the warning is given out for flops. Isaiah, could that be a good way, though, for the NBA to kind of cut down on, maybe some guys that perhaps flop like fish out of water?
I agree. I think that this would be a great rule because it really makes it more strict on the players to not flop. Because if you flop, right, you get a warning. If you flop again, it's a technical foul. If you flop again, you get thrown out of the game. So you could get thrown out of the game just because you flop. So I think it's a really good idea, and I hope the NBA does, implement it into the rule book so that people can stop flopping in the NBA, because some of these NBA games nowadays, they're just getting ruined because guys keep flopping and it's not even funny anymore.
Yeah, Scott, I'm glad you brought that up, man, because there was a game I was broadcasting, I think, last season at the Division II level, and me and my broadcast partner were we're not concerned, but very confused because we really did not have it really explained to us in a very good way, Silvas. And then we actually found out as this game progressed, though, after I believe you get a warning the first time, but after the second time, I believe it became technical fouls on the team. I think not the player, but it was a team given tech, like defensive 3 seconds, basically. So I would love to see the college rule adapted or adopted by the NBA. And also, James says, Callan, that game about Kobe scoring more than Dallas was December of 2005. when Kobe scored those 62 points versus the Mavericks in 3 quarters. Remember watching that game in utter amazement. Same here. I even think that night the Mavericks wore their green and blue throwbacks, which were some of my personal favorites. And also, James says, Callan, I love the flopping rule in college. I'll try to get more clarification about that rule, James and Scott, but I do believe that a warning is first given to the player who flops. If it happens again, I believe the team is given a technical foul every other flop that is called by the officiating crew. But I think that more so, Isaiah, like we have seen, though, rules, though, for basketball have been guinea pigged at the college level. But I can also, Isaiah, vouch, though, for the coaches' challenge system that I recall seeing 3 years ago when I was filling in for the Clippers minor league team at the G League level in Ontario. They were testing or trying out the challenge system. Still, I don't know what the hell it means, but that more so, Isaiah, we have seen rules, though, and other nuances in the game guinea pigged, either in the college ranks, the other pro levels, but Isaiah, more so, any thoughts more so about the flopping rule or maybe even about the challenge system? Because I still don't get the challenge system for the NBA one damn bit.
I don't either. I don't, because the NBA their challenge system is very confusing. I mean, there's some things that you can challenge, but then there's other things that you cannot challenge. And then, like, I guess if there's 3 minutes left in the game, you can't challenge. So what's the point of the challenge system if, like, during the latter parts of the game, the most important points of the game, you can't challenge like calls? It just doesn't make sense, Callan. I think that the NBA really needs to refine that challenge system because right now, like, it's worked a bit, but it's not working as effective as it should be.
I definitely vouch for that because it's been very weird, though, about what you can and can't challenge. But also, Isaiah, what else in my mind is useless is the last 2-minute report of any ball game where you have all these, written bullet points like, oh, we missed a foul here, we missed a shot clock violation, we missed a backcourt violation, we missed the 8-second rule. Like, that's not going to change the fact that a team wins or loses a game or a championship, as has been the case, at least in the women's NBA. We had one final in 2016 where there were 2 games marred by controversy with a missed backcourt violation in Game 4 and a missed shot clock violation in Game 5. That, of course, led to people thinking or saying the last 2 minutes the last 2-minute report is absolutely stupid. But again, folks, that is where we're at, though, with the NBA at this rate. Again, Pau Gasol perhaps going back to the Lakers, maybe to hook up with his brother, Marc Gasol. With that in mind, Isaiah, some very interesting news as well. I think it's been very much a night full of interesting news across the sports world. But more so, Isaiah, a very big blow, though, to certain markets in minor league baseball, as today baseball officially unveiled their plans to dish out invites for 4 levels of minor league baseball by all 30 ball clubs. And again, Isaiah, we have seen some teams stay put, but some teams have either moved up levels, moved down levels, or sadly, we've seen some franchises and markets leave or be cut due to, again, the chances, or at least due to baseball not really seeing eye to eye on certain levels of the game. For example, here with the Padres, Isaiah, they have moved their Double-A club from Amarillo back to San Antonio, and also have seen their Cali affiliate in Lake Elsinore bumped from High A to Low A. And also they've lost out on their short season A ball club in Tri-City up in Pasco, Washington. Isaiah, this is a very, I think, sad day, though, for fans like me, and I think for you, though, that work either in minor league baseball or enjoy going to watch minor league baseball games because of its affordability, the in-game entertainment, or seeing some future guys that may, in fact, be on your ball club in about 3 to 5 years, playing at these very, in these very small cities across California or across the U.S. More so, again, today, the Lancaster Jethawks, notably who've been around for a long time in the Antelope Valley, are closing down operations after they were beat out by Fresno to become the low-A affiliates of the Colorado Rockies. Isaiah, very sad day, I think, for a lot of baseball fans in certain markets who either are losing a affiliate or either losing a ball club, losing a affiliate, or more so losing a team, perhaps after a long, long time of history. Isaiah, your thoughts on this somewhat somber day, I'd say, for most baseball fans in some of these very small rural cities, though, that have been very big supporters of minor league baseball for a very long time.
This, like you said, Callan, this is a very, very sad day because some, cities, some states, they don't have Major League Baseball teams. So the only way the fans there in those states and cities, they can go see baseball being played live in person is these minor league games. These are where those fans go, and plus it's cheap, and the in-game entertainment is pretty good. It's kind of like going to a Major League Baseball game, but without all the glamour and the luxury of the box seats and stuff like that. So this is a very, very sad day, and I feel for like the fans that go to these games, that some of their teams being taken away. It's sad that they can't go to those games anymore. They probably have to travel like 50 miles to go watch the next closest team, or even to watch the major league team. So I feel bad for those fans. I also feel bad for the workers that work at those stadiums, because, I work for the San Jose Giants. I'm an employee of them. And, this year was very, very hard because, like, I think I've told this story many, many times, where I got the job with the San Jose Giants literally a couple of weeks before the pandemic started. And I was really looking forward to working San Jose Giants games because that stadium is so iconic in San Jose. The ball club's been there forever. And I was looking forward to also seeing some of like the young Giants players that are in the San Francisco Giants system, like Joey Bart and Heliot Ramos and all those guys. But, and then 2 weeks later, I get a notification that, we're not going to be needing you or we're not going to be needing, or our season has been postponed. And then I get an email like a couple months later down the road that, hey, we're not going to be needing you, season's canceled. We'll see you guys next year. And who knows if there's even going to be a next year, because if this pandemic is still going on and there's no fans in the stands, then I don't think we're even going to have Major League Baseball. So I feel bad for those fans. I feel bad for those stadium workers that, lost their jobs, because trust me, a lot of these guys, like, they're very young and they depend on those jobs for their survival, and they're now losing those jobs. Some of them, they've been working there for a very, very long time, like even 30, 40 years, like some of them that I've experienced in San Jose. So it's a really somber day for everybody involved, Callan. And I just really I'm glad that some cities, they did keep their teams, but some of the cities that didn't, I feel really, really bad for, because those cities that don't have professional or like MLB teams in, and those are that team is their only team. That is their only chance at going to baseball games live in person, and they just got that taken away. But Callan, I also got to say this one last point before I turn it back to you, is that I am really grateful that the San Jose Giants are being I believe invited to be the San Francisco Giants single A ball club again, because I would have been one of those guys, like I mentioned earlier, one of those stadium workers that would have lost my job because MLB took away the team. But I'm so glad that team is still there, and hope this pandemic comes to an end by sometime like in January or February, so we can resume normal life, and also I can actually go back to work for the first time in San Jose, because it would suck if I get the job and I never ever got a chance to work for that team.
Yeah, Isaiah, very well said, man, because, as you just mentioned, I just kind of laid it out there as well, but Lancaster, California, in the middle of the Antelope Valley, again, the Jethawks have been there for a very long time. They were with the Astros, they were with Colorado and other ball clubs, and they sadly were beat out by Fresno, who, Isaiah, talk about a free fall for the Grizzlies. They're going from being the AAA club for the Nationals last season to low A ball because of, again, the rules in place that have been very, I think, damning by Major League Baseball, with how we have seen, markets like Fresno go from AAA ball in the PCL to the Cal League of low A now, where even the Cal League was regarded as one of the, was, I think, called high A or advanced A. Now it's being dubbed low A, where I think for the Padres, though, more so, Isaiah, from my side of the story here, is that I think logistically makes sense, though, because now you have low A in California, your high A is in Fort Wayne, Indiana, Double A's in San Antonio again after, about a year or so, with them being with the Amarillo Sod Poodles, and then AAA for the Padres is in El Paso, and then they go from El Paso back to San Diego. So I think that it logistically maybe works out. But again, folks, very sad day, though, or a somber day for a lot of our baseball friends and family out there, again, who maybe live in some of these small rural markets that have either lost organizations today or no longer going to be with minor league baseball, but perhaps they could be playing in the draft prospect league or some wood bat leagues. But again, hopefully those cities will still, though, support baseball regardless of what has gone on. With that, Isaiah, we have 5 teams right now pursuing free agent closer Liam Hendriks. That includes the Dodgers, Phillies, the Giants, the White Sox, and the Padres, who could perhaps use a closer. Isaiah, in your mind, where is the best landing spot on the free agent market for Mr. Hendriks?
Callan, when you look at this, right, when you look at Liam Hendriks, this should be very, very easy, but it's not going to be easy. The natural fit for Liam Hendriks has got to be the Philadelphia Phillies, because the Philadelphia Phillies, what were everybody talking about last season? They were talking about how bad the Phillies bullpen was. Every time you turned on ESPN, or every time me, you, and John, or me, you, and Trevor did a show, the thing we were talking about during the baseball season was how pathetic and bad the Phillies bullpen was. I mean, the Phillies bullpen had an ERA of 7.06. They blew 28 saves. Get that in your minds, ladies and gentlemen. 28 saves. The Philadelphia Phillies, Callan, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe in the 60-game schedule, they went 29-31. I might be wrong on that, but they finished 2 games under 500. They won 29 games, and they had the lead in 28 other games. Imagine if they even won half of those games. The Philadelphia Phillies would have been in the playoff. That bullpen.
Isaiah, just to clarify, they went 28-32 last season.
Yeah, all right. They went 28-32. So they were, I believe, 3 games. 3 games, or no, they were 4 games out of 500. But still, they blew 28. They had the lead in 28 other games. And if they win even half of those games, they're in the postseason, because that would be, trying to do the math here, that would be 42 wins for the Philadelphia Phillies. I mean, forget even making the playoffs. I believe if the Phillies win half of those games, they win 42. I believe they would have had the best record in baseball, because I don't think any other team won 40-plus games this season, right?
Not that I know of.
Yeah, so the Phillies, the bullpen cost the Phillies a chance at the playoffs. They cost the team a chance at winning the NL East. They cost the team a chance at potentially having the top playoff seed in the National League. This bullpen needs to be fixed. This is the only area that is holding the Phillies back, and they need to get the best relievers in that bullpen as soon as possible, because it's been like this for the last 3 seasons. The Phillies bullpen has been really bad for the last 3 seasons. It was bad in 2018. It was bad in 2019. It was bad in 2020. They keep costing the team games, and the team never, ever, ever, goes out there on the free agent market and invests in bullpen. They always go out and go get the flashiest hitters like Harper and Rio Muto, and then last offseason it was starting pitchers, when the clear need was bullpen. It's been like that for 3 years. They haven't done it. This has to be the year that they go out and address that bullpen, because you have Bryce Harper for the next 8 years. You have Joe Girardi, who I think his contract ends in 2 seasons, because he only signed a 3-year contract. And then Rio Muto's a free agent. Your team is built to win now. So you have to, I know you're losing a lot of money, John Middleton, but you have to pour more money into to this franchise to get them to win, because you already poured so much money in. There's no reason why now is the time you say, oh, yeah, I'm pulling out after you poured a lot of money into trying to get this ball club to win. It just doesn't make sense. Liam Hendriks should go to Philly. He's the perfect fit for the Philadelphia Phillies, but I guarantee you John Middleton and the Philadelphia Phillies will somehow mess it up, because they have been doing that for the last 2 years, where they it's right in front of them, and they somehow, some way choke it away and mess it up, and like the Phillies end up being where they are right now.
I have two spots, and they're both probably not going to surprise you. One, of course, is San Diego because of either Kirby Yates not coming back because of his injury or what happens with Trevor Rosenthal. I think, though, that the Padres are probably going to be on the outside looking in, though, because I think they want to, their main priority for me is going to be re-signing Trevor Rosenthal to a contract extension or whatnot. Kirby Yates, of course, is probably not going to be coming back, though, because of him missing the entire year with that elbow injury he suffered during the course of the year, though. The other one, Isaiah, though, is not Philadelphia. It's the Dodgers, because I think it's time for LA to move on from Kenley Jansen, and you can't trust him, or even Blake Trinan for that matter. And of course, Jansen showed his true colors for majority of the postseason, where you saw him nearly give away games regular season, postseason. He's not been the same guy for me. So I would think the Padres would be in, only though if they do not retain Rosenthal and Yates. But more so for me, it's got to be LA as the main suitor for Hendricks, because I think it is time for them to cut the cord and move on from Kenley Jansen, because we have seen what he has done time and time again throughout the course of the entire of his career, basically in LA with the Dodgers. And it's time for them to get some fresh blood in the ninth inning and finally cut that cord with Jansen. And Christy Wilson says, I knew Isaiah was going to mention the Phillies. Isaiah, back over to you.
Callan, the Philadelphia Phillies have turned into the baseball version of the Dallas Cowboys, where somehow, some way, it will always go wrong in this front office after Andy McPhail took the reins in the front office and John Middleton took the reins as the primary chief owner of the Philadelphia Phillies. This team has just, like, every time, it's literally right in front of them. You're like, everybody knows, everybody in Philly and all Phillies fans out there know what your glaring need is, and you just somehow, some way, like, choke it away, and you don't go out there and address it. It just doesn't make sense, man. I mean, last year they tried to address it. They got Brandon Workman. I swear that Brandon Workman cost me at least like 3 decades of my life. But every time I watch that guy pitch, I was like a dad expecting a son pacing up and down the room and having to get like 3 or 4 beers out of my fridge, because that's how shaky Brandon Workman was. Please, Philadelphia, like Ryan Schreiner said in our draft show, please, Phillies, please go get Liam Hendricks and lock down that ninth inning so I don't have to constantly have heart attacks in the ninth inning. I am begging you, do it for me as an early Christmas present.
We'll see what the Phillies do. But again, folks, the market right now for Liam Hendricks includes, as mentioned, the Dodgers, Phillies, Giants, White Sox, and the Padres, all showing interest in the right-hander from down under. With that, Isaiah, a great story, though, from Major League Baseball. They've announced the 2021 Ford C. Frick Award winner for broadcast excellence, and that is one Al Michaels, Isaiah, who I think a lot of people don't know did a lot of things, though, back in the day, sports-wise, baseball, basketball, football. Obviously, we know him for that. He also, of course, was behind the mic for both the Miracle on Ice when Team USA beat the Soviets in the 1980 Winter Olympics in Lake Placid, New York, and also best known, though, or perhaps infamously known for being behind the mic, though, as well, during the earthquake series between the A's and Giants in '89. You know, Isaiah, I believe that I saw a stat years ago when he was on a show with Rich Eisen talking about the Miracle on Ice, that Al Michaels is the only broadcaster to work the World Series, the NBA Finals, the Stanley Cup Finals, and a Super Bowl all in his career. And I think, though, this is just one more feather in the cap of a very great career for a great guy behind the mic in Al Michaels. Isaiah, your thoughts about Al Michaels being named the Ford C. Frick Award winner for broadcast excellence for Major League Baseball by the Baseball Hall of Fame for 2021?
This is very, very deserving by Al Michaels. Al Michaels is one of the most decorated broadcasters of our time. He is my favorite broadcaster to listen to, whether it's football. I think Callan, correct me if I'm wrong, has he done the Olympics as well?
Yeah,
Olympics.
Isaiah, like I said, he was the guy behind the mic when Team USA beat the Soviets in the 1980 Olympic Games in Lake Placid, New York, that they made a movie about.
Oh yeah. The Olympics, Sunday Night Football. He's just my favorite commentator to listen to. I always tune in to Sunday Night Football, like and like for the game, obviously, but also listen to Al Michaels. That's how much I love listening to Al Michaels. He, like I said earlier, he is so deserving of this award. He's had a fantastic career. Some of his calls that he's made are going to be enshrined forever. And I'm just so happy that Al Michaels won this award.
Same here, and I am one, Isaiah, that respects everyone in my field. I very seldom or very rarely do I criticize anyone who is calling games as a announcer, play-by-play, color, sidelines, public address, whatever they're doing. I do not criticize them because they're doing the same job that I'm doing and stuff of that nature. And I respect everyone that's in my field for what we of course do. But of course, there's greatness out there, and Al Michaels has called so many basketball games, obviously known for some work in baseball, but more so the NFL, the NBA for a bit. Of course, the iconic call of "Do you believe in miracles?" Yes, Christy Wilson just wrote it in here. The famed call of Team USA. This underdog story of these college players playing the biggest, baddest, men's hockey team in Olympic history, who dominated every single year. And Al Michaels is calling this game and gave us probably the best, one-liner maybe of a team winning a game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes. And he tells that story so many times whenever he's asked about it, basically throughout the course of his career. And with that in mind, Isaiah, very well deserved though for Al Michaels. Again, you see greatness when you see it. James agrees that Al has called a lot of shocking moments in baseball history, notably Dave Henderson's home run against the Angels in 1986 in the ALCS. And also, I believe he was calling, James, if you can correct me on this, but I believe that Al Michaels was also calling the Don Deakinger missed call at first base in the 85 World Series between the Cardinals and the Royals, where it was a similar play to Jim Joyce, where he missed a very blatant out call at first base. That kept the game or inning going, and the Royals won the game in comeback fashion, and they, of course, won Game 7 to beat the Cardinals. So I might be wrong on that, but I think that Al Michaels was calling that ball game in the 85 World Series. Christy says, I remember Al as a baseball broadcaster, but, of course, he is a brilliant voice for the NFL. Joe Buck only wishes he was as good as Al. I mean, I totally, in fact, agree about that, but like I said, I don't criticize anybody. I get the flack with Buck, but Buck earns my respect regardless of what people think out there. James also says, I wish that Al had the opportunity to do more with the NBA. Just did the NBA on ABC from 03 to 05. Isaiah, we can't forget, he called Derek Fisher's .4 shot versus San Antonio too.
Yeah, I remember that now that you remind me about it. But Callan, I know this award is baseball, but Al Michaels, I have two great memories of Al Michaels. And the first one, I wasn't alive for it, but it was him calling the 1989 World Series between the Giants and the A's when that earthquake happened. I watched that documentary when they were it showed when they were on the air, and they were I guess they were introducing the World Series at that time. And Al Michaels all of a sudden said, "Oh my gosh, guys, we're having an earthquake. We're having an earthquake." And, all of a sudden you see the cameras falling and, the screen going black, and you could still hear Al Michaels' voice. So that was one of my favorite moments of Al Michaels. And my second favorite moment of Al Michaels was in that Super Bowl, Seahawks versus the Patriots, and Russell Wilson fires a pass into the end zone, and Malcolm Butler actually intercepts the ball from Russell Wilson, and Al Michaels going ballistic and saying, intercepted by Malcolm Butler. Amazing. Can you believe it? That's one of my favorite calls of all time.
Yeah, it's one of them. It's up there. I think the actual call was the pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. Unreal. I think is what he blurted out, though, when that Super Bowl happened. But I think more so, I think for me, and again, it was one I wasn't alive for, but I've spoken volumes about it, though, is the Miracle on Ice. Because you're talking about, again, folks, at the height, I think probably the pinnacle of the Cold War in the 80s. And at a time, though, where everyone, kind of in a way, Isaiah, Al Michaels said this, though, actually, on Rich Eison's show, I want to say on the 35th or 30, on an anniversary of the Miracle on Ice actually happening on February 22nd. And Al Michaels said it right, though, was during that time, though, America was fractured because of Vietnam, Watergate, the gas shortage, the hostage situation, and that there was really no patriotism, or no one felt good about each other or felt good about themselves during that time. And here you have this team of, these young, clean-shaven college kids facing the biggest, baddest team that had simply dominated Olympic hockey 72, 74, 76. They won like 4 or 5 straight Olympic gold medals, and no one could touch them. They would blow teams out 15-0, 20-1. And Al also said, though, that they had played an exhibition game with the Soviets at MSG about a week before the Olympics, and Team USA got clobbered 10-3. And Al said it really felt like 20-0, because that was just how badly the U.S. had gotten beat. And, of course, Al talks about the whole thing, and I'll try to paraphrase here. But he said when you have the game tying goal from Mark Johnson, then you have Eruzione score the then go-ahead game-winning goal with 10 minutes still to play in the game. Al said to Rich Eisen, "I had never worked in a more state of concentration because I'm working in an arena, maybe holds 8,000 people, maybe 5,000 at that. It was a very small rink in Lake Placid. We're on a rickety platform. It's bouncing up and down back when sound really had it could take over a building. And that, I got the producer in my ear. He's yelling gibberish and garbage into my headset. I wanted to take my headset and throw it off. That would have been fun. And that basically and one thing though that I took away from this though as a learning experience for me or for any broadcaster, hey, call the game, because what happens if they score? Because he was talking about the ending where he said, do you believe in miracles? Yes. He said, what would have happened if I would have said that and they scored the game tying goal with 1 second left? I look like a complete idiot and buffoon. But more so for me, the call that resonates so much with Al Michaels in my mind as a big hockey fan, big hockey fan in general, not a historian, but a hockey fan, is going to be the Miracle on Ice forever and ever in my lifetime. And I wasn't even alive to see it happen back in 1980. Also, James says, yes, Callan, that is correct, that he called the 85 World Series. Also, Christy has one more for us, Isaiah. Remember Al Michaels saying he did what? When I believe it was Donald Driver made that insane catch on ABC on the primetime game where he was knocked down. And I was like, well, wait, did he catch it? What's he going to do? And he did what? That's another very notable play as well in my mind, if you ask me.
Well, now that I think of it, was John Mathis trying to do his best Al Michaels impersonation when he said that after I revealed to the world that I actually once said that I would rather have Luke Walton over LeBron James?
Basically, he did.
He did it with more of his mouth completely dropping though. That's the thing that separates the two.
Christy also says, I agree that America was recovering from a lot of things when the 80 Olympics happened. And of course, that more so, like I say though, a lot though, Isaiah, during a time though where, Cold War's going on, gas shortages, hostage situation, Watergate, that again, that's another thing, like I say though, Isaiah, that sports bring people together. And, I believe that ESPN's putting out a special that I think is highly recommended, folks. I saw it today. That is going to be a Christmas Eve special that basically is going to encapsulate this year that we have been through, from Kobe's death to the social injustice movements by all the pro sports leagues, to games coming back during the pandemic. It's going to be a very eye-opening experience, though. Again, folks, it's on, I believe, on Christmas Eve on ESPN. I'll have to double check that as well. James says that I hate the Henderson homer in '86 against the Halos, but Al's call is dramatic and just perfect on it. I believe that the call, though, basically was, it's gone, unreal. Anaheim Stadium was a strike away from becoming Disneyland. I think is what he had said back in '86, I think. And to clarify, James says it was Antonio Freeman who made that catch that Christy was referring to about the he did what. And also James says, I like this, but too bad we're doing Christmas theme Power Fives right now, James, for the whole month of December. This show should do a top 5 broadcasters take when everyone is on again. after the holidays, we will do that because we're doing a lot of Christmas-themed stuff right now for the Power Fives over on No BS. With that, folks in mind, still time, though, to cast those votes for the MI6 Day 10 of our 31 Days of Hot Takes Challenge, folks, up until the program does, in fact, conclude. Very shortly, so get those votes in via Facebook.com/MI6Sports. With that in mind, Isaiah, we're going to move on over, buddy, and have some fun on this special Wednesday edition of The Night Shift and dive into tonight's bloopers of the week. Again, we'll do this here, but also, folks, we'll do it as well for you, again, as usual as well, coming up on Sunday as well. Let me get my priority straight here with our on-air branding. First up, Isaiah, we're going to go and check out your boy Nick Mullins and what happened on Monday Night Football against the Buffalo Bills.
Road game, second to last game of the season is here. A true road game against the Cardinals. 2nd and 6. Mullins slipped down and then overthrows Deebo Samuel.
It's his foot. He's going to get tripped up by one of the offensive linemen. And he goes down and does a great job just getting up and throwing the ball away.
That's an athlete right there.
It was the right guard, Tom Compton.
So it really wasn't the turf monster, Isaiah. It was his right guard, who I think Grant Cohn will slam on the show on Thursday, that tackled him.
Well, when I watched that play, before I just saw the replay of like Compton stepping on Mullins' foot, I thought that Mullins had just tripped. I was like thinking in my head, what are you doing, Nick Mullins? Like, is there some type of like, a hose down in the field, or is like maybe there's like a turf monster down there that we don't see? But now that I see it, yeah, it wasn't really like Mullins' fault because he got stepped on, so that's why he slipped and went backwards. But hey, at least he got up, from slipping, and he like threw the ball away, because if he didn't, that would have probably been like at least a 7 or 8 yard loss.
Mercifully, he didn't take a loss of yardage. Christy says, can you say, oops, at least he didn't take a sack, as we all know very well from a different video that Isaiah, of course, gave us a while back in the archive here. If I can even find it right now, because we got so many.
Come on, Jimmy, we got to get this first down. Hasty's open. Hasty, oh my God, you take a damn sack. It was wide open. Are you far?
Hey, he didn't take a sack, Isaiah, at least. He got that going for him.
That is true. He didn't take a sack. He threw the ball away, which was a smart decision. But, Callan, the 49ers need to get better offensive linemen. I think we stressed that enough on this show, whether it's like number 68 bear hugging guys on the field and not getting caught for hold, or Mike McGlinchey. I can't even say this without laughing, but Mike McGlinchey whipping on a safety on a run block. I mean, like, come on. This season, like, I know the Niners right now, Callan's already laughing so hard. But the 2020 49ers season will be known for one thing: atrocious offensive line play. That's what the season's going to be known for.
Oh man, I'm very much looking forward to having Mr. Grant Cohn on the program on Thursday, because it's going to be a laugher for sure. So hopefully, you folks don't crack ribs when you laugh like I do every so often. So be very careful if you, in fact, watch the program on Thursday at 5:30 in the afternoon, right here on the 6th. Next up, Isaiah, for our next blooper of the night, Moo. Actually, excuse me about that. Here we go.
Holy, oh my God. Oh my God.
My God.
Oh my
God. Guess what? I got a fever. And the only prescription is more cowbell.
Okay, Isaiah.
Let's run it one more time, Callan, shall we?
Holy, oh my God. Oh my God.
My God.
Oh my God.
Guess what? I got a fever. And the only prescription is more cowbell.
This is why you don't stick a a bucket of cookies out there and try to tempt a cow, because you know, Callan, that the cow, if you did that, the cow would follow. The cow sees food, well, he would come. No matter you take it back, he's going to follow you, and that's what the cow did. So hopefully that woman learned her lesson. It did.
Why, people, do you have to be so stupid? Why? Why, oh, why, oh, why? Christy Wilson writes in, that girl was scared of Bessie the cow, OMG. James also says she is going to be scarred for life. I definitely agree. And by the way, we had one more from James about Nick Mullins. If he threw a pick there, that would have been the #1 NFL blooper of the year. Isaiah, do you agree?
Well, if he had thrown a pick there, you betcha I would have gone ballistic in my 49ers reaction video, because I have, like, ladies and gentlemen, I now have a camera on top of my TV that records, like, every time, like, the Niners play, I actually turn it on and records my reactions throughout the entire game. And I think we have one video from this past Monday's game.
Third down, man. Come on. Get off the field. Hold it! Hold it! That's a hold! Throw the damn flag! Throw it! Throw it! That's a hold, man! Come on, he's wrapping up! That's a hold! What are you doing, ref? Throw the flag! Oh my gosh, it was so clear! It was right in front of you! How the hell you missed that? Damn it!
Care to explain?
Well, Callan, I was doing my best Jim Harbaugh impersonation. Remember back in the Super Bowl, after Colin Kaepernick?
We've been talking about that one for a long time, Joe.
I swear I will be Jim Harbaugh if I actually did step on the football field and coach teams. But I was doing my best Jim Harbaugh impersonation, Callan. There was, I think it was the left tackle of the Bills, or right tackle, I forget, was holding one of the players when Josh Allen threw it deep. And I was just like, that's a hold, man. That is a hold. Just doing this like Harbaugh did it in the Super Bowl. But, yeah, I mean, I don't even know why. Like, I was so frustrated. That touchdown, the Bills, or let me put it this way. I was so frustrated because I'm a very optimistic person, Callan. When my team is down by 10 with 2 minutes left in the game, I still think my team has a chance to win. But that touchdown put the Bills up with 17 with like less than a minute or a minute 50 left in the game. And every sane person would know when you're down 17 with 150 left in the ball game, there is no way in hell you're going to win.
Yeah, I mean, basically, there's like no chance of you coming back and winning that ball game. Sadly, at this rate, just fixing a few things here. With that in mind, a couple of thoughts real quick, or at least one thought. James says it's like Isaiah is actually on the sidelines. He already kind of, in a way, said that piece. Next up, Isaiah, at our next blooper of the week, or the night, more so the night, more so than the week. A-Rob, what are you doing?
Nothing over the middle, I promise you that. 3rd and 5. Trubisky, Robinson, and Robinson will jump out of bounds. But did he step out before the yardage for the first down? It looks like he did. See right there, and he has room to run because.
Allen Robinson, Isaiah has called him the most underappreciated receiver in the NFL. And I was listening to the radio feed from WBBM with Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer. And Isaiah, they both lost their mind when Allen Robinson stepped out of bounds at a yard short of the first down. All he has to do is reach out, A-Rob, reach out for the first down. Instead, he doesn't do it. They don't get the first down on 4th and 1. And the Bears lose their 6th straight game. Why, man? Why?
Callan, not even reach. He just needed to go run straight forward, and he gets the first down. The Allen Robinson, or the defender, was 2 yards behind the first down marker, so he had room to run straight forward and get the first down, but he decided to be too cute and dance his way to try to, juke that defender and get the first down. Just run straight forward, man. You don't have to be cute in that situation. Run straight forward, get the first down, move on to the next play, and let's see if your team can complete the comeback. Ultimately, he gets too cute, tries to juke the defender, steps out of bounds, 2 yards short or 1 yard short of the first down. I mean, can you say, Callan, that is like symbolic of the Bears season right now? Like, come on.
Basically, that is it. And I love Allen Robinson to death, they'll believe me, but man, oh man, that's the worst possible time to have a brain lapse. And like I said, like I said, folks, I listen to the Bears games on the radio here in San Diego because they're not on TV here. So I listen to WBBM, which is the Bears flagship. So I get to listen to Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer. I thought they were going to shatter, like break a bone in their body or break their table because they were so irate that he went out of bounds, a yard short of the first down marker. James says that A-Rob got away with offensive PI anyway. Christy Wilson says, and I thought I had seen bad catches before, but this one takes the cake in my opinion. It's up there for sure, along with BYU being a yard short of beating Coastal Carolina.
Callan, remember that video that we watched last night post-show about the worst play or the dumbest plays in the NFL? We saw guys run 100 or run 99 yards and leave the football down at the 1, or we saw a Cowboys defensive lineman get an interception, and he thought that he was free to go to the end zone. He slows down, ball gets slapped out of him. But that play, I think, has to be in that compilation. I mean, come on, man. You could have just easily ran straight forward and you would have gotten the first down, but you decided to be cute, dance your way, and step out of bounds a yard short. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Brutal, painful reminders, but on to next Sunday. Number 2, folks, is bird is the word. Well, damn. What a rude way to welcome somebody to the party. Affleck.
I think I'm gonna break a rib just laughing at that, because this is like the 15th time that I've seen that video and I'm still laughing super hard at it. The duck was fearing for his life after the dog turned around and growled at him and started chasing. I mean, what are you doing, man? Really, you're gonna peck the dog in the butt? Like, come on, man.
When did the Affleck duck go off the rails like that? That's horrible. That's absolutely horrible. Real quick, let's see. Christy Wilson writes in, Isaiah mentioning Leung Lett. Oh, man. It was the one, Christy, of the Super Bowl against Buffalo where Don Beebe whapped the ball out of the end zone. And also Leung Lett in the playoff game, I think, where the snow was falling and all he has to do is not touch the ball, and he slips and falls and touches it. I think it sets up a game-winning field goal for the Dolphins, I think, or someone like that. And also Christy says, damn, that dog got violated. And James, I agree. The Affleck duck got curious. Just a little bit. However, though, folks, to the number 1 blooper of the night and the week, or at least for the night, the Pineapple Express.
But ladies and gentlemen, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Ah!
Isaiah, I have one question to ask you. It's a one-word question. Why?
First of all, Callan, I did this yesterday because I was bored at home, right? Because everybody's been locked down because of the quarantine, And, I had seen on YouTube, me and you post-show, we've been watching a lot of fail videos, and, we've been scouring the web for random bloopers. And
Here's you, here's Matt, there's you, there.
well, Callan, I got bored, and I have been seeing a recent trend on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you name it. And that was people trying to break fruit with their skulls. I see some guy try to break a watermelon. I had seen some guy try to break a pineapple like I tried over there. I had seen some guy try to break a grapefruit. So I tried it, and I was like, yeah, let me try this. And, I'm so certain that Callan won't have this on the blooper reel. So I'll do it. I'll do it. So because I know, I'm not going to get exposed. And then I did it, and I literally nearly knocked myself out by, hitting my head on the pineapple. Callan, you know how you always, you say sometimes, the NFL is the most dangerous sport because guys are hitting each other left and right. Well, Callan, I don't think the NFL is the most dangerous sport. I think the most dangerous sport now is people trying to break fruit with their heads, because I could have easily gotten a concussion. And, oh, by the way, would you guys all agree that when I hit my head on the fruit, right, did that sound a lot like this? Did it sound like a basketball bouncing on the court? Because I thought it sounded like that. But, yeah, I mean, it was a dumb decision. I was trying to have some fun and just backfired badly, and I nearly knocked myself out.
Basically, and by the way, folks, a fruit ninja, Isaiah is not. With that, folks, we'll now wrap things up for the night as we head towards the midnight hour and dive into tonight's final thoughts. Final thoughts time here, folks, on this Wednesday, this special edition of the Night Shift in place of WST. As a reminder, everybody, we've been pumping it up throughout the course of the program. But again, folks, SI reporter Grant Cohn of the Niners from SI will join us on Thursday, 5:30 p.m. Pacific time on the MI6 Sports Network right here with myself, Isaiah, and Mr. John Mathis. With that in mind, Isaiah will first, reveal the final results of the bracket challenge for tonight's program. Again, folks, we asked you to vote for either Furman Lee, saying that the Raiders would win the AFC West, or me accurately predicting a Dolphins win over the Niners and the Lakers winning Game 6 of the NBA Finals. And the results go to me by another unanimous vote. So 2 nights in a row, Isaiah, of shutouts by the MI6 crew here.
Wow, back-to-back shutouts for you, Callan. I'm really.
Well, you had one. It was you last night who had it, and then it's me tonight. So back-to-back nights, though, we've had some back-to-back unanimous votes.
Yeah, hey, I mean, congratulations on your win. Congratulations on being right about the 49ers Dolphins prediction. Even though, that was the game I think I started waving the white flag. I mean, I've waved the white flag. I put the white flag down many, many times. But yeah, I would never want to talk about that game. But congratulations on the win, man. You deserve it. That was a great, great prediction by you on those 2 Niners and Lakers games.
With that, Isaiah, now over to you for your final thoughts.
Well, my final thoughts before I give my final thoughts, I want to thank the viewers for tuning in tonight. I want to thank Chardot, James, Christy. Let's see who else tuned in tonight. I think we had a couple more people. Yeah, Julio Mendez, as well as Scott Silvis tuning into our show tonight. I think we also had a couple more. No, that's it. Oh, yeah, that's it. But I want to thank all the viewers for tuning in tonight. Really appreciate the love and the support that you guys give us. You guys are truly the best fan base on the planet. Make sure you guys tune into tomorrow's episode with Grant Cohn. It's going to be a legendary episode. I personally can't wait to talk to Grant Cohn and to rant about my 49ers team with Grant Cohn. So it's going to be a great episode. So tune in for that. But my final thoughts is what James Gonzalez said in his comment. I honestly, first of all, I will never ever try to be a fruit ninja and try to break fruit again, because obviously I am not a fruit ninja. But, I got to agree with James. I might have to go into the concussion protocol because from watching that video, you would think that like I, cracked my skull. But Callan, so you might have to list me for tomorrow's show as questionable as I go through the concussion protocol.
Not when we are bringing a guest on from your favorite NFL team. That is not happening anytime soon. Of course, folks, final thoughts from me. Again, a big shout out to all of our viewers out there and for all the listeners on Anchor. And of course, as a reminder, everybody, but once more, Grant Cohn, the legendary 49ers reporter from SI, joins the WST team. Myself, Isaiah, John Mathis tomorrow on Thursday, 5:30 p.m. Pacific time, for what will be one legendary interview. And I'm sure we'll have plenty more about the Mike McGlinchey video and the other stuff that he has done, but also, of course, talk some 49er football for the good part of an hour with Mr. Grant Cohn. And also, folks, as another reminder, but the following Thursday at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, KNBR radio host and former San Diego and LA-based reporter Mark Willard also joins us next Thursday at 12:40 in the afternoon to talk all things about the Bay Area and other sports going on, of course, up there with the Warriors and the Giants, the A's, the Niners, you name it. We'll have plenty of things going on with Mark Willard also joining us, folks, from KNBR radio next Thursday at 12:40 in the afternoon. And as well, folks, next Thursday or next Tuesday or in 2 weeks, I believe, in 2 weeks on the or getting my day screwed up here because of stuff going on. But the following Tuesday, the 15th, folks, we'll be having our MI6 fantasy basketball draft live for you folks here at 5 o'clock Pacific time right here on the 6th. And also, folks, as a quick alert for you folks, Friday and Monday, as of now, I'll be actually away from the network due to, again, work still obviously starting. We actually have games scheduled right now on Monday of next week and this coming Friday. So I will not be able, though, to host No BS and WST on Friday and Monday. So we'll have a replacement for me, but I'll be back with you folks on Saturday and Sunday of this upcoming weekend. And also, we'll be back with you folks the following Tuesday for, of course, the draft show. And maybe, depending on how we're feeling, we'll have the night shift for you folks, too, on the 15th. With that, though, folks, in mind, we'll have more about those scheduled changes for me, at least, when, in fact, more news comes out. But again, folks, Grant Cohn, Niners reporter for SI, joining John, myself, and Isaiah at 5:30 on Thursday for what will be a very wild but very awesome edition and legendary episode of Wild Sports Talk at 5:30 in the evening on Thursday. With that, folks, for the entire cast and crew of the MI6 Sports Network, and of course, Isaiah Leung and yours truly, Cal McClurg, we say goodnight to you folks. We'll see you back here, as mentioned, on Thursday for the Grant Cohn interview, 5:30 Pacific time back here on the 6th, and of course, plenty more programming coming your way on Friday, and of course, over the weekend as well, folks. Take care, please stay safe and stay healthy, and so long. See you folks back here on Thursday, 5:30 Pacific time, with myself, John, and Isaiah. Grant Cohn from SI joins us to talk all things Niners at 5:30 in the afternoon, folks. Till next time, good night. Bye-bye.